the book ship on time, and that our artists are never, ever, ever late.
I'm the artist, that's a lie. Carrie Norton.
Rob Vendetti, I write Exo Manowar.
Dinesh Shamsani, Chief Creative Officer.
Frank Pierce, I'm the publisher.
All right.
So, we're about 2 months into the first releases of the Summer of Valiant. Exo Manowar has come out thus far, as has Harbinger. Has anyone picked up either of these books? Show of hands?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's every comic book fan. See, every comic book fan in America has picked it up. This is a random
For
thing.
how many was that your first Valiant title? All right. So we got some diehards too in the crowd. Dinesh, I hope you're ready for some trivia. So over the course of the panel, we're going to show you some upcoming art, tell you a little bit about what's coming up in the summer and fall, take some questions. Any particularly great questions that we think, we're going to be giving away some of our exclusive variants. Show them the goods, show the people what they haven't won yet.
We got a whole bunch here. Cool. We don't want to take them back.
All right. So let's start with a little Exo Manowar, why don't we? Look up here. Issue 1 came out in May. Issue 2 was out in just a few weeks ago. Issue 3 will be hitting stands on July 18th, I believe. Covered by Elena Kevich-Jurjevic. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about how Carrie and Robert came to be attached to the project?
And for any of you guys, it's not clear, this is Carrie Norwood. Carrie's the pencil of Exo Manowar. He's the one who launched the first book for us, and it's going to be penciling issues 1 to 4. And this is Robert Venditti, the writer. Robert and I met up in San Diego last year, and we were talking about working together on something. He sent me a pitch for Exo, which I thought was absolutely really terrific, really intelligent, really insightful. We spent a lot of time talking about Eric and who the character was and what it meant to be a Visigoth, and as we'll see, I don't want to spoil anything yet for the new readers here, but just what it means to be that character. Each one has been pretty fantastic. Carrie's absolutely drawn the hell out of it. There's a guy named Stefano Guadiano, a super talented cat. We've got a great colorist named Moose Bounding, so I feel like the guys are really putting their heart into it. Issue 3 comes out
July 18th.
July 18th, and in issue 3,
I'm supposed to say what happens in
take it away, baby.
I don't know, I could lose my job right here. I don't know, how do I talk about without spoiling it? That's a page from issue 3 right there, which actually, I'm seeing it for the first time with all of you in its colored state. I haven't seen that page colored yet anymore, but basically Eric finds himself in the first and second issue being held captive aboard an alien vessel. And at the end of issue 2, there's sort of a moment where I'm trying to speak about it vaguely, not spoiling anything, but at the end of issue 2, there's a moment where he sort of gains the capacity he's going to need in order to escape from the alien ship. And so that's going to be a large part of what happens in the 3rd issue, but it's going to happen in some interesting ways. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. There's going to be a really big moment there that I think people are really going to enjoy. Sort of a new element of what we've added to the armor, one of the sort of new abilities, which we had several. A lot of them haven't been revealed yet, even though the seeds have been planted for a lot of them already. But one of them will be revealed in this issue, and speaking from a completely unbiased opinion, I think that the issues are getting better as they go. Which is what you want. Like when I see the art come in from Carrie, especially when you see Goose color and everything, and you see the finished product, I really do feel like. It's getting better and it's building to something, which is what you want to try to do for the fans. You want them to enjoy this issue and look forward to the next one, and then when they see that, still feel like they're in the upward arc, So I do feel like we're pulling that off. You all can assess for yourself when you see.
And one of the things about the issue that I love so much is Robert's put together just this extraordinarily great idea of the antagonists in the book called Divine. They're sort of our alien menace, and in the initial take, Rob's really built this kind of divisive nature, as we'll see in issue 3 and 4, what happens once Eric gains that capacity to do what he needs to do, how they react to it. It's really fascinating stuff that's complex and really executed quite well. What are your thoughts on the issue, Matt?
My thoughts, I don't know. It looks great, I think.
Yeah. That does look great. The pencils are really quite beautiful.
I don't know. It's very interesting to me. I actually didn't follow too much of the early Valiant stuff, so I'm not terribly familiar with people, Exo, Mythos, I guess, and it's been a surprise seeing what's coming out of through the scripts for me too, and it's like been kind of enjoyable. So.
Awesome.
So these are some more exclusive pages from issue 3, but going into the fall, of course we have some stuff coming up. We teased a little bit about Ninjak before, but getting it out there. We're going to talk a little bit about Harbinger, which is our second book of the summer. Go for it, Lauren.
Sure. Harbinger, issue 2, is coming on sale on July 11th. This is a book that's written by Joshua Dysart and drawn by Corey Evans. In issue 2, we have some guest art for the first 5 pages by Louis Larissa. I don't know if anyone who's over 18 has read the Punisher Max run that Louis drew, but he's one of the best artists in my opinion working in the industry right now. You can see from the stuff on the wall just how incredibly complex and beautiful it is. And what we're seeing here is a flashback sequence with Harada that sort of explains Harada's origin a little bit. Harada is the antagonist in the book. The story is about Peter Stanchek. Peter's an 18-year-old kid who's sort of spent the last 6 months traveling across 7 cities in desperate attempt to escape from people who were pursuing him. He does not know why they're pursuing him and what they're after. And what we discover is that Peter's psionic. He's one of the most powerful people in the world. And he thinks what he's been doing is he's been using pharmaceutical drugs to mute the voices that he hears in his head because he doesn't really understand that he's a telepath. So he has all these voices, the first cover that we actually walking down the street and there are 100 word balloons all around it. And he doesn't understand, he has an inkling of it, but he has no ability to control his powers. And as we'll see throughout this issue, things culminate. I think the first 17 pages of issue, or after the flashback sequence, I think the first 13 pages of issue 2 are a gigantic fight scene between Peter and the forces that are coming after him. So, I was talking with Kari, who's the artist of the second one. He's like, well, you really picked things up with issue 2. So he was drawing tanks, knocking down houses, and all 9 yards. So it's a pretty action-packed issue.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of y'all have not read Harbinger, but it is a really, really good book. I enjoyed it a lot. I told Josh that when I read it. It's kind of a book that I really admire as a writer, to be able to do something like that. It's a really complex story, really contextual, but done really, really well. There's a lot of character in that first issue, which is not easy to do.
Yeah, Joshua wrote the Unknown Soldier book. He's written a bunch of stuff. If you guys have a chance, check out the Unknown Soldier book. He wrote for Peter DC wrote it. It's really exceptional, and he's really a talented writer. Really did a beautiful job with this. And then up on the wall we have the issue 3 cover by Patrick, an issue 4 cover by Patrick Searcher. Patrick's an extraordinarily talented artist. That first cover on the left is one of my favorites. That's Peter when he, as we'll see, that story revolves around his first day, quote unquote, in class. I don't want to spoil too much here, but as we'll see, he begins to have more of some of the traditional things that we saw in the first incarnation of the book when it was launched in the early 90s. We'll start to see that develop a little bit greater.
If you're familiar with that work, you might notice some familiar faces in the cover on the right, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, third release coming up next month on July 11th, we have Bloodshot, which Warren has famously described as a house on fire on top of a mountain full of dynamite.
House on fire, rolling down the mountain with dynamite.
Even better.
Everyone keeps making fun of me in the office. That's all that I say about this.
That's excellent.
But yeah, this is written by Dwayne Straczynski. Dwayne's an exceptional novelist. He's really a talented comic writer as well. He's the guy who took over Iron Fist from me when I was at Marvel. He also did a Werewolf by Night Max book for me. The artist is a guy named Manuel Garcia. And if you go back one, we've got some really extraordinary cover artists coming through as well. That image on the left is Esad Ribic. Esad's one of the most talented painters in the industry, extraordinarily talented guy. And on the right, David Ajay, who's done a lot of design work for us and character work for us. That's one of his covers as well. We're really lucky to be working with this group. So it's nice.
Pages from issue 1.
And then we have some interior pages from issue 1. This is, I think Dwayne, described this as the most violent comic he's ever worked on. I don't know if that's true or
He's
not.
very right.
Dwayne's written a lot of violent comics in his time, But the thing about it is, it's not just it's not just violence for the sake of violence. It's really wrapped around the stories, and it really makes a lot of sense. The vibe we're going for is really just an action-packed kind of summer blockbuster, but an intelligent one. I can't stand when I walk out of a movie and it's been nothing but punch up for 90 minutes if there's no story to hang your hat on. So Blaine really put together a great first issue for us, I think.
Bloodshot really takes a beating in this book now.
Yes, he does. He's having a bad day, as you can see from the splash page up there. And then for the next issue, if you want to show some pencils.
Sure.
Yeah, you can see from the sequence on the right, Manuel's just absolutely killing it. He's doing some beautiful, beautiful work. The choreography of the fight scenes here is really fantastic. And the guys are, it's really just nonstop from start to finish.
Last book coming up in August of our initial launch will be Archer and Armstrong #1, which is written by Mr. Fred Van Lente. You may know from his Marvel work on books like Incredible Hercules and Taskmaster. Some really fun, exciting, romp kind of stuff. I think we describe this as the secret history of the Valiant universe, kind of a globe-trotting quest around the world. Art is by Clayton Henry, who you can see here at the show this week, doing some phenomenal work.
Yeah, Clayton's doing some extraordinary work here. I don't want to spoil too much of what's coming up, but the opening sequence really sets the tone for a lot of key events that happen, including the Valiant universe in the future. And we get an understanding of what's motivated Armstrong in the present day, what's helped shape him. And then we're introduced to Archer in a extraordinarily hilarious and kind of insane way. It's really, when I was going through all the old Valiant books, Archer and Armstrong was the one that really jumped out at me. It was one of my favorites, so I really had a great fondness for the characters. They're really quite wonderful. The genius that is Barry Windsor-Smith and Jim Shooter, this was kind of Barry's baby. The art in those first issues, those back issues we haven't seen, is extraordinary. So if you get a chance, I highly recommend it. Not a lot of comics from the 90s have aged all that well. You can pick them up and they feel a little bit dated, but I think with Archer and Armstrong especially, when I was reading those could be on the shelf next week as an issue 1, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye. They're really just extraordinarily funny and well crafted and beautiful.
Why didn't you kill him?
I know.
We could have just put him.
I know, but then you wouldn't have needed me. I wouldn't have had a job. I had to convince these guys I needed to update it, Otherwise, they just could have published it. And here's some more art from Clayton. It's beautiful stuff.
We're very excited for this one.
Yeah, we're really excited for this one.
And I think you'll find that it's tonally a little bit different than some of our other books. There's a little bit of levity to the line, but it's still exciting and super enjoyable.
Yeah, you'll have to read it. It's a deconstruction of certain things, and Fred's a great writer. He's a terrific writer. He brings a ridiculous sense of humor. There's a hefty portion of sort of Monty Python matched with some surrealism in there and modern day politics. So it's really quite fun and a little bit off the beaten path from the other books.
And of course, we got some great covers for this one as well. Neil Adams did one of our variants that we unveiled just this week. Fred, how did we get Neil to do the cover for us?
Neil actually, we've been working with Neil a little bit, and we've been in touch with Neil. It's Neil's studio that did the animation for the QR post, for the QR talks, just both for EXO and for Harbinger. So we wanted somebody special to do the artwork for Archer and Armstrong, and Neil has the perfect sensibility, and it's Neil Adams. So we went up to Neil's studio, and Neil said he'd be happy to do it. And I don't know if you know it or not, Neil has a history with Valiant because his son-in-law at the time was the marketing director at Valiant, so he has a special affinity for us too. So we all go back a long way, and anytime you work with Neil, it's great. Neil's also one of the old-time artists that sits in front of his drawing every day. He's one of the guys who's still drawing, doing the work, and spitting out the work every day.
So Neil's a real icon. We're real lucky to work with. We're really happy to have him cover for us. He's one of the most influential artists in the history of the media. Really just a short and accomplished guy. So we're real. When the opportunity to do a great sprung it.
And if you ever want to know about Warren's first meeting with Neil, check what happened. Let's check the CBR from 2 days ago.
All right, wasn't your 13th birthday Neil Adams cake or something?
I had a cake with a picture of Neil and his face on it, which is true. For those of you who don't know, there's actually a picture of Dinesh, our CCO, who's sitting at the table. when he's 12 years old blowing out a cake, and on the cake is written Valiant. So it's kind of adorable. Dinesh looks like he's 7, even though he's 12, and it's just, you know.
So we go to see Neil Adams. Me, it's Fred, it's Warren, and Neil Adams is there. We're all cool, you know, we're professionals. We sit down. Warren especially, I've never seen him crack. He's super professional, super cool. Never gets starstruck. We sit down. I look over Warren, he starts to turn red. Right? It's really strange. Kind of like he is right now. We're talking with Neil for 2 minutes, and Neil suddenly stops and he points at him and he goes, "This guy's just happy to be here." Like now, he did Warren turn red, but Neil caught it. We had to get Warren a signed poster, this poster, from Neil Adams. Fred got it signed. So Neil Adams is the biggest fan right here.
Here he is, Clayton Henry, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, whenever, I've had the opportunity to work with family on a Toy Story, I had the opportunity to work with Neil and Archer and Armstrong, I had the opportunity to work with John Severin on some Iron Fist pages and Rescue as well. Whenever you get to work with someone who's kind of helped shape and define the medium and, sort of architected some, whether it was a key art change or was involved in the key book, it's really, I don't get starstruck that often, but sometimes I do. I'm just one of those guys, But anyway, so Clayton, we were showing some pages from Archer and Armstrong a little bit earlier. Some of the introductory stuff. I don't know if you can see them. Can you see them up on the wall?
Oh, yeah, I see them.
So Clayton's the artist. He's doing an absolutely wonderful job on it. He's turning in all of his pages at a great clip. He's never late like he was today. So it's pretty great.
Tell us what you think, Clayton. What do you think, Archer?
I think Warren's being very generous when he talks about me being a quick artist. But yeah, Archer and Armstrong is it's a lot of fun. I'm having so much fun with the book. Love working with Fred. If any of you remember our work on Incredible Hercules, it's really similar to that. It's that kind of a buddy book, but in my opinion, the main difference is that Archer is a much cooler character than Amadeus Cho was. And
Agreed.
Lots of action, and these two characters are really learning a lot from each other, and and I try not to ask Fred or Warren what's coming up ahead, because I like reading the script and finding out, and sometimes I'll crack up laughing because of something that Fred wrote, because I like being surprised too. So I really like where the book is headed right now. And I accidentally, I don't know if I can say this, but I read the word, no, I'm pretty sure I can get away with this. I read the words ninja nun at the end of the second script, and I don't know what it's referring to, but that's got to be great.
Is that the actual name?
Yeah, I believe the
I think
term
that's-
is nunja.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Fred's still determining which one.
And I don't know if anybody's designed a ninja nun yet, but
It's been a source of great debate in the office. This is, I was talking with Robert and Diddy a couple of nights ago. We were doing some letter corrections on EXO. It was like 9:30 at night. Rob is one of the all-time hard workers in our industry. He goes above and beyond with every script. What was the content? I forgot what it was, but we were discussing what the sound effect on a certain comment was going to be, like whether it would be like kush or whether it would be like. And like my wife was sitting on the couch watching TV, listening to me do this. The book had to leave house, and I'm like, yes, this is my job. This is what I do for them. But it's kind of funny. It's a little bit like reading the nunja for the ninja. It's like, okay, this is what we do.
Nunja is just a word, just a placeholder name, right?
Yes, it's nunja.
Trademark.
It's the 5th title.
All right, let's take some questions. Dinesh, we have those variants ready?
Yeah, we got them ready.
If anyone asks a question that really gets us going up here, or else if we tweeted a secret code word a little bit ago, if you manage to use that, you might get a secret prize as well. Okay. You start in the back.
We saw the trailer on so great in the first 4 issues. How much can you talk about what your general plans are or hopes of how this kind of group art is like? I mean, it's tough nowadays as an artist to do a monthly book because there's not that many of them. It seems like, are you going to kind of break up arcs and not give the books on time? Is that the goal?
Yeah, the key thing is it really doesn't matter how fast you slow an artist is, as long as you schedule them, and fit them into slot so they could get the deadline.
You're not reading XO1 carefully enough.
He's in EXO number 1.
Come on. Come get your book, read it again.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking a little far ahead, but are there any plans for any titles that aren't set in the previous Valiant or something that's completely original? Because one of the beautiful things about the original Valiant line was you had the established and the gold key characters, which are already established, but then you had the new characters, which kind of came along and it really added a lot to that. Is there any plans for any completely original series?
Well, right now, what we're really doing is we have so many key characters and so many characters that are part of the Valiant universe, and we want to build that really doesn't overtax the consumer and doesn't overtax the retailer. So we did 1-1-1-1. So you have May, June, July, August. There's 4 very strong characters there. Then you have everybody in this room can name another 5 to 10 characters that they would like to see. So eventually we will, and then as what will come out of the writing and what will come out of the editorial is there will be, characters that deserve to stand alone. But everything will have to be what's already on the table, because as publisher, I'm going to publish what sells best next, or what actually complements the line best. If you look at the characters that we picked, EXO sort of is a no-brainer. Harbinger is sort of a no-brainer, but it's an entirely different kind of book than EXO. Bloodshot is a different kind of book, and then Archer and Armstrong is a different kind of a book. So we can roll it out, but if we can name Eternal Warrior, Shadowman, Rai, Dr. Mirage, what? Psylords. I mean, I'm just saying that there's another, but you could just keep naming and naming titles, so that anything that you're saying that, anything that comes out of it would have to beat those titles. And also, if you're a Valiant fan, you want to see those titles. But there might be 1 or 2 characters that were not part of the Valiant universe, but were actually part of the Valiant family that you might see. And there's one that comes to mind by everybody all the time.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Appreciate it, thanks. I kind of have a business tying into that a little bit, a more business-related question. I mean, you guys, obviously, the new launch, you're taking your time doing it right, and have publisher and fan and retailer and all that in mind. I'm just curious, what is Valiant's mission as an organization? Where do you, like Arcana doesn't try to be Image, Image doesn't try to be DC or Marvel. What's Valiant's goal in the series?
Try to be Valiant, produce outstanding comics month in and month out.
Yeah, it's very simple. The best comics in the market. That's right.
Great.
It's easy to say. Nobody's out there trying to do mediocre comics. Everybody's out there trying to do great comics.
Are you sure?
Some people are successful. Some people might be successful mailing in comics, but nobody who's part of the crew is mailing in anything. So I think our mission is to put great comics, put a universe together, put the same type of universe together that everybody loved at the time, but do it for 20 years from now, not from 20 years ago. So when you look at, how it's progressing, I think we said in an earlier time, we want to be a major player. I think we'll be the #5 comic book company. And soon, our goal is to be the #3 comic book company. Every title, you should be able, if you fall in love with just Archer and Armstrong, you should be able to read just Archer and Armstrong. But just like everything else, if you read everything, you'll get more of a feel for everything. And that's really what we're doing. And that's the goal. That's the mission statement. So that, and I was part of the original Valiant. Everything that we're doing stands up better to the original stuff. And if you speak to the creators who were involved, because I'm still very friendly with the creators who were involved, they will tell you the same thing.
Yeah, Fred makes a really good point there. And one of the things that we're trying to do is make every title you could read, arcs good without needing to plug into another book to understand what's happening. But by the same token, if you read all the books, the larger capture universe comes into focus and begins to build this. As with XO1, the first appearance of the term.
Shadowman.
I'm just wondering, how did you pick the creators to launch the universe? Because it's a very diverse group. You've got, Rob comes from a very non-superhero kind of genre, and then you've got Clayton, who worked worked at Marvel, and Terry, who came from Conan, and you've got Josh, who came from Vertigo. How did you pick those people? What made you go, Rob and Carrie, that's the team?
Warren's a genius. Warren, you did it.
Oh, if I'm a better genius, life would be so much easier. I was, I talked to the guys. I wanted a group of guys who I felt were dedicated to the project, who I felt would put their hearts into it, who I felt were talented writers. I read a lot of all of their stuff. I read Rob's work. I talked with him at length about what we want to do with the characters, how easy they would work with, how good with their ideas. I mean, the stuff you're seeing in EXO right now is just the absolute tip of the iceberg of what's coming. I mean, just the ideas of divine planting babies in Visigoth culture, so that the Visigoths would raise them. Just that basic idea is, it's unique, it's intelligent, it's smart. Rob and I both like birds, so I believe that you came up with the idea from what was happening in your own yard.
Yeah, I have a bird box in my backyard, and I've got a bird feeder, bluebirds, whatever, and there's actually a species of bird called the brown-headed cowbird that flies into another cavity nester's nest, so it could be a wren or a bluebird or whatever, and it deposits an egg and then leaves, never comes back again. And that host species raises that child as their own, and without that offspring ever having known or been around anything of its own kind, it still innately knows another brown-headed cowbird to mate with when it's older, and it knows the right things to eat. It knows somehow innately what its culture is, even though it's never been around anybody that it was raised by a completely different species of bird. So it's actually there's precedence for it, and it's happened in my backyard with the birds in the nest, and you see it happen. And a lot of times the host species will raise this offspring to the detriment of their own offspring, because they think it's one of their own. So it's really I don't know, it's a very insidious, twisted.
It's very fascinating.
thing,
And when we were doing, when Rob and I were talking about the pitch, what we were talking about with the original incarnation, what does Vine want? Why are they here? What are the Vine after? As opposed to just, be disposable targets that can be thrown at Eric. What are the challenges? What does that species want? So there are a lot of things that were cracked along the way that Rob came up with that just, it's like, wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's crazy. So, it's just working with the guys, it's seeing what they're, how excited they are to work on the properties, and what do I want to read, what do I think will be unique, what do I think the marketplace will be. To answer your question before, I don't just want to repeat what other companies are doing. I'd like there to be something unique about what we're doing. I'd like there to be, kind of interesting casting, and hopefully the books are good and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
The original Valiant universe had two main time eras they covered. Is there plans for the new Valiant to cover those two same time periods?
You'll begin to see that with Archer and Armstrong. Number one, you'll begin to see some of that stuff, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yes, sir.
Was there a reason that you picked the order of comics to come out? In other words, is there a reason you picked EXO to come out first, and Avengers and Bloodshot and Archer and Armstrong? Is that like any long-term plans or something?
Most definitely. Fred, you hear the question?
No, I'm sorry.
About the order of the books. Could you repeat it for Mr. Pearson?
Is there a reason that you picked the order of the books you released first, like first EXO, then Harbinger, then Bloodshot, then Archer and Armstrong? Is there like a long-term plan or something?
Definitely, we were going to launch with EXO. EXO might not have been everybody's favorite character, but it was the signature character of Valiant in the day, and it's the easiest character to understand, I believe, in terms of the world. Harbinger was the next logical book for us to go to. Also a standard Valiant character. You're going from an individual book, an individual superhero, to a group superhero. So that worked very well. After that, we definitely wanted to do Bloodshot, and we wanted to do Archer and Armstrong. There were a couple other in the mix. And basically what we were working on was, what Warren was saying is, what will evolve, as we get the stories, as the stories come in, as the pitches come in, which is the one that develops best, which is the one that develops the most. So Bloodshot, it was a great pitch. Archer and Armstrong was a great pitch. The plan, I think, originally was sometime during the course of the rest of the year, we're going to launch another title. I think originally Eternal Warrior was supposed to be the next one. It's the question we've had the most here, other than why we're not selling T-shirts. Eternal Warrior. Okay. But I don't believe that Eternal Warrior will be our next title. You know, we'll find out soon enough. So we will eventually sell T-shirts. We will eventually do an Eternal Warrior comic. But a lot of it just comes out of certain things. You know what? You can't push it. If one story comes to the fore and it grows better, that's the story you're going to run with.
But it also let us give you a different sense of the universe. I'm sure from the comedy book, Bloodshot type of book that isn't on the market anymore that was, very testosterone fuel, mind trip, excellent marketing of the biggest books in terms of awareness that we have that allows us to come out of the gate down to place. There was a lot that went into it.
Yeah, totally as Dinesh is saying, they really don't repeat each other. So that was very cognizant as well. And it's probably one of the reasons why Eternal Warrior got pushed a little bit further back, just because, you know, we have XO, we have Bloodshot, we have, you know, a lot of very hyper-masculine characters running around, punching things.
You, sir.
Yes, I was wondering more about the movies, if you have anything lined up, any sort of rights to Bloodshot, what's the reality of that coming on screen? I really think like it's a great exo. They got great Iron Man exo 10 times the technology. Now, I'm just, you know.
20 times. 20 times better. Not 10, 20 times better.
What's the reality of that happening?
I think that it's a very real possibility, but here's where our mentality is at with that. Is right now, comic books are very, very hot for Hollywood. And really, every single one of these characters can have big attachments, big studios involved. We are very careful with that. We're a very comic book based company. We focus on the comics, we focus on great stories, we focus on the creators we have here, we focus on this kind of convention. So we're very careful with what we do there. We've announced that we have Sony on Bloodshot, that there's a writer, screenplay, producer, director in the mix. I think it's a very real possibility that these movies will happen. It's a matter of when, not if. But our focus right now is this. There's a lot in the mix there, but our focus right now is this.
That being said, when you walk with Dinesh, there's a lot of phone calls that happen. Sure. When you're walking with Dinesh, a lot of phone calls happen all of a sudden.
Yes, sir.
As somebody who didn't really read Valiant back down, I'm so young, but I was just wondering what the motivation was to bring it back, basically. What's driving you at this point, finding?
When we were drawing up the original plans for Valiant, there's a real groundswell for the old properties, and we had assumed that 80% of the people who were buying the comics at this point in time had never read or even heard of Valiant, so we had to make them for today. Dinesh and Jason, who put the original investment in it, bought it out of the bankruptcy of a claim, and so they are the ultimate Valiant fan. So there was really this groundswell and a need for this kind. Now, there's a need for a third great universe.
They're great characters. They're great characters. They deserve to be recognized. They deserve to have great stories told of them. There was a moment in history where these characters could have taken the world by storm, and it's sad that it didn't happen. And they deserve that second chance. I think that is part of the emphasis. There's a lot of reasons, but that's part of the emphasis. I think that's what Fred's trying to get at.
Yeah, and as much as I'd like to kid Dinesh about him blowing out a cake, he really did blow out a cake when he's 12 years old with dying on it. I mean, you won't find anyone in the world. I was in a dying tribute in San Diego, and he just trashed everyone, man. It was crazy. He's got encyclopedic knowledge and stuff and tremendous love for this stuff. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, I was telling somebody that the other day about like conversations. Like, there's not like a Valiant encyclopedia. You know what I mean? That if you have a question about something or how something ties together, or whatever, you can't go look that up. But it's like in his head, you know. Like,
Dinesh is the dying.
Yeah, like he's
the handbook for the
Valiant
dying universe.
encyclopedia. Yeah.
Now I'm going to get everyone in here coming over to me at the call trying to stop me.
Please do.
Please do.
Something ish.
Yes, sir.
There's some rumors that that Shadow Man's going to pop up in Harbinger. Is there any truth to that?
Shadow Man, is that one of ours?
Shadow Man.
I don't think Shadow Man's one of ours.
No. Hides and Shadows, New Orleans.
Yeah.
Looks like it's a dark guy.
Batman,
Fights.
introvert.
Let's go for Nightman, really?
Hides and shadows.
Shadow Man. I think that's Jack Dominique Boniface or something. Isn't it? That's the name.
Do you know what town you're in there? Stanley's out the hook. Stanley's over there. Shadow Man? What kind of name is that? Shadow Man.
I don't know.
Avoiding answering your question.
So nobody's an answer.
That's your answer. He's avoiding answering.
You've had,
I hadn't heard that.
picture of the back of Ninjak and XO, and I was just wondering who the big Ninjak fan is. Not that I ever, probably, but Ninjak was one of the bigger characters back then. It was just, I think it was a surprise a lot of people having them brought back in such a high-profile way so soon. I was just wondering who's the big Ninjak fan, and are there big plans for him down the road?
Well, can I answer that? Absolutely. I don't think that it's a question of fandom for the character or anything, but I think that if you look at it logically, like I'm not a fan of stories where it feels contrived that these two characters come together to fight each other, which is sort of happens in comics a lot. And it feels like they're only fighting so that people can see them fight. I'm not speaking to that at all. I'm just saying it is something, and sometimes it can be done really well. I think the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon was really great at that, where my kids loved it. Every episode they bring in somebody new. But to me, it would feel contrived to not have those two characters meet, because if you think about it in terms of this universe where you have somebody who shows up on Earth in this highly advanced weapon that nobody has ever seen before, and in that same world you have a guy who is the world's foremost weapon specialist, it would be contrived for those two people not to come together, right? One is going to want to go find out what the other guy's all about, because that's what he is all about. So I think it's more in terms of what makes sense for the story and what would be the impact of Eric's arrival on Earth to the other characters that are in the Valiant universe, who would be one of the first ones who would step forward. And to me, logically, it seems like it would be Ninja.
It actually makes sense on that.
Yeah, Rob and I were talking to T2 and he bounced an idea off me. I'm like, the genius you're doing that right now. So it's really, when you read it, it's really great. It's just seamless integration of the character. It really makes a lot of sense. What do you got?
In the original launch previously, there was like this really strong emphasis on cohesion between the titles, that they were all in the same continuity. There was all the breadcrumbs lying around. I was wondering if there is any workings there, any cross thing that is working to build that cohesion again, to show that these are in the same continuity and they're all part of this.
Yes, there will be stuff throughout the books that if you pay close attention to, you definitely will see that this is all operating within the same universe. What we are doing though also is reading very constantly to try to make sure that if you're reading all the books, you'll pick up on it, but if you're not, it won't stick out like a sore thumb. I can't stand books that are based around other books and really having the story hanging around that on, as Rob was saying. I think it's not just the fight scenes, but it's just, here's a story about another story. It's just, I don't have a tremendous amount of interest in reading books like that, or editing books like that, or trying to launch books like that. So I really think that all the characters that we have up here really, Ninjak's a great character, and one of the things that's so enjoyable about this job is taking a look at what characters we have from back in the day that really might be wonderful moving forward. I edited a book called Iron Fist of Marvel, I edited a book called Ares of Marvel. I edited a lot of books where we took properties that or characters that might have been B or C or characters that nobody was looking at, and brought them back and really tried to make them really cool with the help of some extraordinarily talented writers and artists. I'm blessed to be in a position again where I'm working with guys who I really have all the faith in the world in, and I feel like if we give them these characters, we're just going to knock them out of the park. So it's a lot of fun.
There's just about 10 minutes left before they close the show floor, so I'd be happy to keep taking questions, but if anyone needs to get back down and go pick up anything or grab their families or friends, feel free, and you can always come see us at the booth the rest of the weekend. Yes, sir.
Do I actually have to ask a question and use the word Vine Baby, or can I just say Vine Baby?
I think you can probably just say...
can I just say Vine Baby?
Come on then, Vine Baby, let's go.
Yes, baby. Baby.
I want to ask, it seems like Bloodshot's going to be focused on Black Ops, and Ninjak, you guys bring him back, sort of the weapon here, the Super Battle universe. So what I think will those two get together again? And one of the things I liked about the previous universe was they go kind of work for their respective governments. And it was a nice interaction. We start
think that you hit on a very key point of what we'll be seeing coming up over the next year, if not necessarily with those two characters, but the architecture of the universe and the role that individual characters play within the larger context.
Present day, there were characters in the past and there were characters in the future. It really spanned a global kind of perspective and a time kind of perspective. That caught on to the psyche of the comic book fan, and it was actually a very big time in comic books, because when we came to the universe, when the Valiant universe was being launched, the comic book industry was sort of in a doldrum. With the launch of Valiant and at the same time the launch of Image, it really sparked the whole comic book industry at the time. So really what you're seeing is the rekindling of that energy, which never died. So I'm just trying to give you a quick perspective. Valiant also was the one who brought Zero books to the fore. We brought Chromium books to the fore. We brought Valiant Vision. It was very innovative, and we're trying to be innovative today in a similar manner, which is we have our QR, which we have a talking poster. A talking poster now, talking covers where you click on a QR poster. So we're trying to be very inventive, and it's hard to come up with a new idea. One of the board members said, "Come up with a new idea." It's not so easy, but we're trying to do that all the time.
But the thing that separated Valiant, the reason that Valiant took off the way it did, like no company except for Marvel in the 60s and DC in the 30s had, was because Valiant told the kind of stories that no one would see for 5 or 10 or 15 years later. They told stories that they put so much into the book. You saw characters that were shades of the real world. You saw a universe that had a mythology just like the world that we have, and all interconnected, but you could read each storyline itself. And it wasn't a universe built on a Hulk clone, except he's a different color, and a guy with claws, and a guy that lives in the ocean. It was all new characterizations, all new archetypes. It was a breath of fresh air in the industry, with quality storytelling that was consistent.
It was also truly innovative. I mean, when I went back and read a lot of the books, I was really stunned at how cutting edge they were and how groundbreaking they were at the time. Some of the stuff that was published today would be extraordinarily controversial. This was done 20 years ago. So I think the combination of all those things, people really responded.
Because they were the upstart, they had no choice. Either do that and get people's attention, or they'll fade away. And it was an interesting thing to see. And in a lot of ways, we have that attitude. We'll take the chance because we're nimble and we're small, and we've got great creators and great editors. The whole company treats it as a mission. They really aren't set out. It's a strange thing. You can go into our offices on Saturday at 3 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, and there's guys in there. You're not the only one in there. There's guys working on the books. When Warren's talking about calling Rob at 9:30 to do letter corrections, that's not really that late for the way that we work. It's a 90-90 company, and that's why the books are going to be good. That's why you've already seen it there.
Time for just one more quick question. Sure.
I was going to ask you, in the original Valiant universe, Zero issues were pretty important. They were innovative at the time, but they were also kind of important because they gave you the origin of the characters. Are we going to see Zero issues in the new Valiant universe?
How do you get all the number ones out first?
We've got a number one coming out
3 weeks on July 11th.
July 11th, and then we have another one August 8th. So, but it's not something that we haven't discussed.
It's definitely a part of the company's history.
Yeah, it's definitely part of
The Zero issues are really, if you can do look, we have the luxury of, we were on hiatus, so we have the luxury of relaunching everything cleanly, all right? And the Zero issues were really just a way to, all right, let's take a new look at something without messing around with the chronology of the numbers, which is very important in our industry. But we have number one still to get at. It's really a luxury because we weren't in the situation that DC was in, where they wanted to start only number ones. We're starting only number ones, and nobody questions why.
And thank you for not putting coupons in when we had to cut out.
Yeah.
See, Ganesh, we should do it.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate it.